Let's go. We have TAHM KENCH. Unbench the Kench. And wow, you want to talk about some awesome design. I can't speak enough to Riot's design team. They have been on point with all of the champion designs thus far in the game. But as always, my name is Justin, also known as Shit Just Works, and today we're going over the sweet reveals that we just got from the Runeterra Twitter. Some TAHM KENCH cards, as well as TAHM KENCH level 1 and 2, and a spell that goes alongside him. So strap yourselves in. We're going to be going over these cards in just a sec. All right, so before we go over TAHM KENCH, we're gonna go over some of the other cards that they revealed. Obviously, save the best for last. And first up, we have Wise Fry. I see what they did there. Wise guy, Wise Fry. Yeah, okay, all right. Well, whatever. I like me some good puns. All right. Anyways, this is a 6-cost 3/8. Which is very similar to, I think it's like War Mother Skirna, or I don't really know how to pronounce it. She's from Freljord. She's 3/8, which takes damage, she gains attack, so and she also has Overwhelm. This also has Overwhelm, but also has Vulnerable. And then on top of that, when you play Wise Fry, you deal 1 to all other allies, and it gets +1/+0 for each of them. So first thing comes to mind, as it does a lot with a lot of cards that are released, and the reason why I'm saying it like that is because it comes to mind and it never ends up being good. Rip, Vlad. Sorry. Well, one can only hope that this actually makes Crimson okay. I mean, after the nerf to Disciple, I don't know. It's not looking too good, but this, I don't know. It's definitely interesting. It's a new concept of a finisher, something similar to that War Mother card I just mentioned, which is basically the same thing for Freljord. So do you play this with something like Freljord in the Battle Scars deck? Do you play this with just Crimson? I don't know. It's going to be interesting, but this does seem to link Noxus, Freljord, and Bilgewater together in some sort of strategy. So we'll see what decks come from this, but I don't really think this will see too much play to start, not until Crimson and Vlad gets a little bit more support, which we might see if Noxus is revealed with this set as well, with this expansion, or that might be in the next expansion. So next up, we have one other card that's not related to TAHM KENCH. After this, all the cards are related to TAHM KENCH somehow. We have Shakedown. So this is really weird, interesting card. It's a 1-mana burst speed spell. Deal 2 to an ally, grant 2 enemies vulnerable. So the first thing that I think most people thought when they saw this card is Undying. Obviously, you can kill your own Undying and grant 2 things vulnerable, which not only triggers the Undying, but then also allows the Undying to then again, when it's revived, challenge one of those vulnerable units and potentially kill itself again. And that's one of the things that I know some people toyed with originally, was using the Undying with that the other French named card, Laureate Rose or something like that. I don't even remember. Sheriff Laureate Rose. Pretty sure that's it. Yes. So that thing, it gives everything vulnerable. So that I know some people toyed with Bilgewater and using it with Shadow Isles. So this gives another Bilgewater card, something that applies vulnerable. On top of that, which they actually demoed in the video as well, you have something like Hunting Fleet, which also summons a vulnerable unit. So now all of a sudden we have this sort of vulnerable strategy popping up that might actually be valid. I don't know if it's going to be Undying is the route to go. That might be the route to go because of that deck I just mentioned with Sheriff Laureate Rose and Undying previously. But going to be interesting to see where this fits in. I just don't see if there's I can't picture, besides Undying, I can't see another deck that actually plays this sort of vulnerable strategy. But we'll see what other cards come out. All right, so now on to the sweet TAHM KENCH cards. So to start, we're going to do his champion spell. Then we're going to get into him, and then his unit gives him a spell every turn that is a new card as well. So to get started here, we have Bayou Brunch, which could also be TAHM KENCH's Bayou Brunch. So if you have another TAHM KENCH in hand and one in play, you will get this card. So basically, all right, 3 costs slow. An ally captures another ally and gains the stats. So let's just assume, because we haven't gone over TAHM KENCH yet, and that's why I wanted to do this first. So how good is this just on the basis of you're basically sacrificing an ally for the time being to gain its stats? Well, if you have something, and there's really no effects that I think are going to be able to trigger with this, because capturing doesn't trigger last breath, it doesn't trigger the damage effects, like you can't really get any added effect with this. So you're really just getting the stats. So the problem is if you capture something like a 5/5, let's say, sure, you're gaining 5/5 worth of stats for 3 mana, which feels really good, but you're losing that 5/5 unit for a little bit. Now, at the end of the day, you're going to get that unit back, usually, you know, assuming your opponent doesn't obliterate your unit or something like that. So that should just, you know, break even as far as card advantage and stats are concerned. You actually are getting, in that case, if you're using it on a big unit, you're actually getting a huge advantage. So I think alone, obviously, this doesn't really make too much sense. It does have some usability outside of Kench. So let's go ahead and get into Kench now. So, all right, the moment has arrived. Level 1 TAHM KENCH. All right. So it's a 4 mana 2/6. So we talking Shen stats. All right. Shen was buffed from a 2/5. Now, my first concern with this, after I fully evaluated the card, after I took a second to like take it all in and what it does, actually thought this might need to go down to a 2/5. Might even, or a 1/6 might work better, make more sense for TAHM KENCH. I don't know, but we'll see. I don't think it's necessarily broken. I think it's a pretty good card, but we won't really truly know until more cards are released. So anyways, round start, create an acquired taste in hand. So what does acquired taste do, you might ask? Well, it's a 2-cost slow speed spell. TAHM KENCH swallows an enemy unit, it strikes him, and then he captures it. So really the only other capture card in the game is Detain, right? So Detain was played, and it costs 5 mana. However, it is fast speed, which is, again, we've said this multiple times. I feel like the difference between slow and fast is actually pretty large. So I think that is a pretty significant advantage, because you can chain it to something like, you know, a Vengeance, and then you capture. You know, there's just things that you can do with Detain that you can't do with a slow speed spell. So, and then it strikes TAHM KENCH. So, all right, you're taking a little bit of damage. You're getting a reduced cost Detain, and basically killing the unit. Well, not really. Then it could potentially pop back out. But wait, let's go ahead and take a look at the level 1 effect. When he levels up, obliterate my captured units and release my allies. So this is, we just mentioned the other card where you're actually capturing your own ally to gain its stats. Well, this will then release the ally. Now, with that said, with something like Bayou Brunch, I am almost positive this is how this will work, but when you play that, it gains the stats. It is not temporary. So when the unit does pop back out when he levels up, he will maintain that stat buff increase, I believe. If anybody knows differently, feel free to comment below. But that then turns Bayou Brunch into a pretty damn good card. So he needs to capture 3 units. So now the thing is, yeah, obviously in 3 turns, if you're using Acquired Taste 3 times, you can get the 3 units. You'll likely need to be playing Bayou Brunch in order to actually play TAHM KENCH and level him up. My first thought is obviously playing, we just mentioned Detain, maybe play TAHM KENCH with Demacia. Somehow, I don't know if that really makes sense. I actually thinking about it now, maybe Standalone is suddenly a decent card. I mean, you would unfortunately have to put a lot into TAHM KENCH. You'd really have to pillar on him for your strategy, and Demacia doesn't really have any deny type tools to avoid your opponent just completely blowing you out with you know, some sort of removal. So it's going to be a little weird playing with Demacia, so you're probably just going to have to go all in on his Acquired Taste in the Bayou Brunch. So his effect, though, wow, that's pretty good. You're generally probably going to want to capture 2 of your opponent's units and 1 probably ally with a Bayou Brunch. If you can get 3 of your opponent's units, great. You're obliterating all 3 of them. I gotta say, this, knowing his level up effect, and let's go ahead, I'm gonna bring up the level 2 one here as well. So level 2 is he gains 1/1 as per usual. You still get the Acquired Taste every turn, and now every single time he attacks, he obliterates the captured units and releases his allies. So knowing that, Acquired Taste suddenly becomes like this 2 mana single combat type deal, where he's still taking the damage, but it's always killing the unit. Whereas single combat only kills the unit if you have enough attack. So no matter how big the unit is, he'll always be killing the unit, as long as the attack is obviously lower than his health total, because if it's higher than the health total, then obviously the strike is happening first, TAHM KENCH would die, and then the card fizzles. So it doesn't really make sense to play it. So that is something you have to take into consideration with TAHM KENCH, is that he's only really as useful as he is big. So all the more reason why you kind of get pigeonholed into playing something like Bayou Brunch, where you have to be buffing up TAHM KENCH. If you're playing this, this is where it's going to be interesting as to what region TAHM KENCH gets paired with, because you kind of want to pair him with buffs just so you can pillar on his strategy, like I mentioned. But you also, if you do pillar on him, similar to Lee Sin, you pillar on Lee Sin as a strategy, you have those 3 denies as backup with him being in Ionia. I really don't see TAHM KENCH being paired with Ionia. That seems bad. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of how people utilize his strategy. What I will say is, if he is leveled up, this is incredibly good. This is an obliterate every turn, or every other turn, every attack turn, I should say, for 2 mana. Technically, you're obliterating 2 units for 4 mana every other turn, which is crazy. And, if your opponent has a counter to it because it's a slow spell, whatever, you're getting a card out of them. So he is like a control machine in that sense. The issue is going to be protecting him. So really love his card design. On point with making him feel, as usual, I've mentioned this so many times, with so many champions that Riot has released, feels exactly like the League of Legends champion. If you haven't played him in League of Legends, go do it. You'll know exactly why he's eating stuff. All right, just do it. Just go play TAHM KENCH. Just one game. Just do it. And he's really fun. All right. So that's it. That's going to be TAHM KENCH revealed. Super excited to see the rest of the cards they decide to reveal to everybody, as well as the champions. We kind of know the champions, but it's really at this point going to be what region they pop out with. They already revealed some Shadow Isle stuff, so that's probably the last of the Shadow Isles card, because we got the bulk of them in the first round with Call of the Mountain. So hopefully, I don't know if I want Shyvana or Noxus more. Probably Shyvana because of all the dragons we got. I know Shyvana, but I feel like they're going to wait with Shyvana. I don't know. Well, anyways, as always, everybody, stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you, and peace out.